This is Beyond the Sidelines with Ethan Schmidt and George Belecki, only on 4stateshomepage.com.
Well, welcome into week 9 of Beyond the Sidelines. I'm Ethan Schmidt. He's George Belecki. And George, if you can believe it, we're in our final week of the regular season.
When I woke up last Friday morning, I tweeted out my predictions. I thought it was the final week of the season. You corrected me, luckily.
I gave you a quick text.
I'm happy there's a delete button. I wish there's an edit button still. But yeah, I can't believe the end of the season, the final week of the regular season for Kansas and Missouri is already here.
Absolutely, and we're going to jump right into the action here. Our game of the week last week was the first time that the Silver Tiger was on the line in 13 years, and Lamar, well, they kept Oscar in Lamar. And
that was something we all predicted. I said it in our prior Beyond the Sidelines leading up to the game that you said, Lightning would have to strike 5 times. I said 65 times. Nevada would have to play their A++++ game. I said they'd have to play the most beyond game, out-of-body experience. But Lamar, I love the flow of the game because they came out, everything was moving downfield, all their offensive plays. I know you saw it firsthand. Right. You were there shooting and covering it. But the emotions that go into a rivalry game like this, all the extra off-the-field stuff that comes into a trophy game, you never saw it affect the players on the field for the Lamar squad. They've been in bigger games, they've been in brighter lights, but sometimes when you have these tradition games roll around, it could affect them. We didn't see any of that happen to Lamar.
There was some moments, and I will say this, it does get chippy, and even Lamar was getting a little bit upset about maybe some of the ways that the end of the plays were going down. Yeah. But that's why you have good coaching staffs that make sure that those teams realize, like, hey, we're playing for something bigger than just this rivalry game. We're playing for the postseason. We're playing for things like that. But there was a few times where you saw a lot of coaches run down the sidelines yelling at certain players and saying, hey, keep your head in the game. But it was a very, very dominant performance by Lamar like we expected. Trevor Medlin, 4 touchdowns in that game, 3 of them in the first half. He had the first 3 touchdowns for Lamar of the game. So you saw what he was able to do on the ground. He also had a receiving touchdown as the opening points of the game as well. So we saw the things that we were kind of expecting. We saw Trevor Medlin bust free. Duncan Gepner looked really good. He really wasn't having to air the ball out that much because the ground game was there.
But it's been there for the past, since really we've seen the spinning quarterback since 2010, 2011. But what I love, Ethan, was I don't know about during the game how heavy the rain was, but obviously on the muddy field, ball's slick, hands are slick, everything's wet. They were still throwing the ball. That's what really surprised me.
Yeah, and J.D. Bishop did go up and get a beautiful catch. He caught it over 2 defenders. However, there was a holding play that called it back. So they did try to go to the air, and I kind of called it on the sidelines because Coach Bailey called a timeout on 2nd down and 2. And you had the lead, and I was like, he's going to try something down a sideline here. And Duncan might have got smacked a little bit. I don't know if he just kind of threw it in, but luckily, as you mentioned, J.D. Bishop's a guy who can go up and get the ball. He's a basketball player, and he did that very well and caught that pass around 2 defenders. Now, they didn't know what was going on because they obviously weren't expecting that either because, as you mentioned, conditions were a little bit wetter. However, it was exciting to watch, though, because, we know that they have that in their back pocket depending on field conditions and things like that. So exciting to see that, exciting to see the run game there as well. And again, Lamar, they go on, they win this one 43-6. They set up our game of the week, which will be at Cassville. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Nevada, they will get a chance to host Monette. Let's move on now. Let's talk a little bit Webb City and Ozark. Webb City coming off a 42-0 victory over Ozark. You were able to go there. You were able to travel to the game. And you saw a really great performance from Webb City in that rushing attack.
I said it after the highlights on air. Well-oiled Webb City machine, because that's what they are. They're firing on all pistons as they're getting ready for district play to roll around. Biggest part, we saw Flash and Dash emerge, and they earned that namesake between Devin Weathers and Durand Henderson, combining for 311 yards, just 19 carries between the two of them, averaging over 12 yards a carry. The biggest part I take away from this, and I realize this staying on the sidelines, that there's no Grant Goltra, no Tucker Friend, no Blake Fowler. So it's 3 offensive linemen, starting offensive linemen that Webb City has been playing without. We haven't noticed. Those guys have been out since week 2, week 3. Some of them lost for the season. Some of them can make a comeback. But we haven't noticed a single hiccup in the running game. First play from scrimmage, Webb came out. They threw the ball, even in the wet environment and everything like that. This is the offense we're accustomed to seeing, but they just continue to roll. And defensively, yes, it was against Ozark. Yes, Webb City is the cream of the crop when it comes to schools in the area, no matter the class. But defensively playing assignment of football, forcing fumbles, not recovering all of them. But you're one of your favorite defenders on that side of the ball, Cade Hicks, coming in, making plays in the backfield. Guys like Tanner Rogers stepping up, Cale McAllister too. On the defensive line, Trent Thompson and Dallin Crockett as well. Just the names that keep rolling in. It's the same old, but that's what it's been. And I mean, like I said, Webb City's just not seeming to slow down. They just keep getting better week by week.
And they'll get a chance. They'll actually host Nixa to end their season, so we'll see Webb City hosting Nixa. And speaking of Nixa, last week Nixa hosted Joplin, and Joplin kind of came to town and just ran away with that one. They won 42-7, and they ran away with it by a guy that you're very high on, the running back position, and Isaiah Davis. 4
touchdowns, 122 yards on the ground. I love it when Zay gets the ball, because when they start feeding him, the offense just all tunes in together. He's that consistent guy, a patient runner behind the best offensive line when it comes to the run game in the area, with all those seniors, 4 seniors and a junior up front. I love that about them. They give it to Isaiah, they set the pace. A big part too, Blake Tash, he's back to his old self. You know, we were concerned early in the year, him throwing a lot of interceptions, having a lot of turnovers, but what I saw was in those games, you know, the Carthage games, the Webb City games to be particular, throwing the ball 28, 29 times. On their current winning streak, the max he's thrown the ball is 16 times, completion percentage back to 82%, no interceptions. Plays within himself, gets the ball in space to his playmakers, especially Zach Westmoreland. And a big part of that is that Joplin has been playing with the lead. They've been in these games, aside from the Neosho game, but they ran out with it in the second half. Don't get behind. Defense steps up, keeps offense in the game. They don't have to get uncharacteristic. This team goes as far as their defense will. We know what they get offensively with all their horses as far as the defense go, and that's every team in the area, Ethan. But for Joplin to see the biggest beneficiary being in their passing game, another beneficiary being in their running game, because that opens the lanes for Zay.
Absolutely, and Joplin, they'll get a pretty good one this week. They'll get a chance to take on Carl Junction. They'll host Carl Junction. We'll talk about that in a little bit later as well. Another game to look at, Carthage. They go up and they defeat Republic that game 42-26, and it's been the same old for Carthage week in and week out now. Patrick Carlton has stepped up to fill Zeke Sappington's void and what they were missing of him on offense, and he's done a fantastic job of doing that.
I can't imagine the confidence level of this offense, and if you want it firsthand experience of it, or, you know, just to see how it's been, 4 of their touchdowns in this game came on 4th down. Carlton was responsible for 5 of those touchdowns, and 3 of those being passing touchdown deep balls, 20 yards, 33 yards, 43 yards. 2 of those to Jaden Morgan. We were waiting for JMO to come out and emerge as well. I mean, Patrick Carlton, he's continued. He did it his second start, and I saw it again in his third start. Just impresses me with his arm strength, his accuracy as well. They just keep feeding all their offensive weapons.
Absolutely, and Carthage, they'll get a chance. They'll actually host Ozark. So a lot of our local teams being home, that kind of helps us out after a week when they were all in the Springfield area. So that'll be good to see them at home as well. Let's go on now. Carl Junction. We've been waiting for them to kind of bounce back into this one. CJ, they get the win over Branson. Defense showed up. They were phenomenal. They win 28-7. I don't know if that's going to be the same case this week coming against Joplin. Like I said, we'll get to that later on as well. But let's talk about this last game, at least for Carl Junction.
2 of their past 3 games have been wins, and both of those wins, this defense has forced 6 turnovers. You go to Friday night, they had 6 sacks on top of that. And the way they were forcing the turnovers, Tegan Armentrout, 3 interceptions this past Friday night. This is the Carl Junction we're familiar with. This is the Carl Junction we were hoping to see, or expected to see. Forget the hope word. Now, this is the Carl Junction we're hoping to see. Hang their hat on their defense, run the heck out of the ball, as they did with Joe Kennedy at running back, even getting reps at quarterback too. And we saw Doug Buckmaster get back to being experimental and creative with his offense, because Alex Baker started at quarterback. He's a quarterback moving forward, but they would have random plays throughout the drive. Baker goes out wide where he started out beginning of the year. Joe Kennedy taking direct snaps. Whether he threw it or ran it, just putting the ball in his hands right away. 41 touches for Joe Kennedy. It's going to be a lot of the offensive game flow going through him. That's what they need to do moving forward. But it's, like I said, I'll go back to the main point, is that this is the Carl Junction we're familiar with.
And that's what I thought as well with Joe Kennedy. I thought that's what we were going to see this season. It just, the struggles came too early for him. When we talked originally, I mean, we're going back over to the summer here, losing Raekwon, what was going to be the answer. And we didn't find that answer out until really 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, when we saw that movement of Joe Kennedy to the backfield. So Joe taking up the run like he should be doing, and he's doing a good job. But of course, they'll have a chance to play at Joplin. We'll see what happens there. Galena, they stay undefeated. They win 38-0 over Columbus. Another shutout victory. J.C. Shelton looked good. Cooper Lawson was running the ball well. Nick Sarwinski stepped up into a good role. Galena, they get a tough competition in this last game of the season. They're at Parsons, who's only 6-1.
top 2 teams in the district too, Ethan.
Yeah.
That's a big part now. They're both clinched. They're both going to get into the playoffs, but this is what the seeding comes down to. So home field throughout.
Right, exactly. And that's what Galena will look for. That's what Parsons will look for. So we'll see what happens. Columbus as well, they'll actually get to host Frontenac this upcoming week. Now let's move on to Cassville. We said that we're going to have Cassville-Lamar as our game of the week. We talked about it on Friday night. We told everybody, hey, early, everybody got a chance to hear it early. This will be our game of the week, and everybody kind of expected that. Cassville shut out a very good Reed Springs team. I mean, Reed Springs, we saw good games. They beat Mount Vernon by a point. That's Mount Vernon's only loss in the season, but Cassville, a 35-0 shutout victory over Reed Springs.
And that's Reed Springs that knocked Cassville out of the districts last season, so they get some revenge. But this is the Cassville team. They're familiar with the big games, especially Lance Parnell. He was on the coaching staff between those 2 state title runs earlier. You know, you go back almost 10 years now as the head coach. But the team is senior heavy, senior led, experienced led, and that showed up in this Reed Springs game. Reed Springs, I mean, that's a team that's won 5 games the past 2 seasons. They already have 5 wins this season. So they're now getting used to we're the top dogs. People are going to give us their best shot.
Right.
And they got to continue, maybe get back to playing with the chip on their shoulder. They're expected to win now. Can they play with that expectations or perform and pull through?
Absolutely. Let's go on. This was our biggest upset from this past week was Monette knocking off Mount Vernon 18-12.
Well, correct. You said Mount Vernon by accident.
Oh, excuse me. McDonald County.
I know.
Monette beating McDonald County 18-12. And yeah, I'm glad you caught me there. Yeah.
I got
I was on Mount Vernon from the last segment here, but yeah.
And you know who had the Cubs back? Their defense, because they came in, the least amount of points they let up was 28 points throughout the entire season. Holds that Mack County running attack. They gave the ball to Oakley Wrestler, and he only mustered up 12 total points for his offense. I mean, that was a huge upset. When we saw the final score, we all sat back and said, wow, because that startled us. But Monette catching momentum now. And what that does, Monette was looking at the 8th seed in districts. I'm not sure exactly how everything's equated, but I understand that there is a flip process. If you went outright, Mack County could finish points-wise as a 7, Monette at the 8 because they won the head-to-head. They jumped to the 7, and they avoid that buzzsaw. Webb City. Right,
exactly. Right now you're just hoping that, you know, something good happens in those last few games. And Monette has a chance because they will play at Nevada this upcoming week. And Mack County has a little bit of a tougher one because they actually will host Seneca. So that's going to be 2 tough opponents. But you're looking at Monette right now. Obviously, don't look past Nevada. Yeah. But think of this. You need to win this game because you would rather hope for Neosho than Webb City. But that doesn't sound very well either.
For Webb City. Nothing against Neosho. No one's hoping for the Cardinals. But I love it because I dog Missouri all regular season long. Why does everyone make the districts? The regular season means nothing. Well, those 2 teams, or mainly Monette, just proved to me what the regular season is responsible for. On top of it being a home field advantage, you can win in districts to avoid those buzzsaws. You get in, survive, and advance. That's what the playoffs are.
And Pierce City also making sure that they were keeping themselves on the top of their district. A blowout victory really over Miller, 44-12. Last year we know that their season kind of ended prematurely with that loss to Thayer in the district finals. And all roads will lead through Thayer, we know that. But for Pierce City, I just think that they're fired up this year to get past that.
Well, I think that win can hold and give them home field throughout districts and Thayer and Kabul are both in there. Thayer's a 3-hour drive. Kabul's a 2-hour drive. Now, Brad Hawker's guys, this is their first home game off a 5-game road trip. They're used to playing on the road, but there's a point where you want to be at home, especially through the playoffs. Because once you get past your district, it's every man's game, for every man for himself, every team for themselves when it comes to who has home field, who has to play away. So they took care of that. If they can lock up the 1 seed, Thayer has to come to their house. That'll be huge for the Eagles.
Yeah, and they actually end their season against Pleasant Hope, who hasn't won a game this season, and then they would get Pleasant Hope again in the first round of the districts, the way that the district works out. So Pleasant Hope, there's really no hope for Pleasant Hope. I know that's a terrible
hope
pun.
Out the window, like I said earlier,
exactly,
right?
Yeah, because it's just not going to happen at this point. For Pierce City, a win, and then they would get another chance to play Pleasant Hope in that first round of districts. All right. Normally at this time, we always turn and we'll look at things. We'll go into, top plays, things like that. But we thought, let's keep it going here. We have a lot of great action to talk about. And we have a really good game of the week that we want to focus on, George. And that one is the Lamar Tigers, who are 8-0. They are going on the road to Cassville, who is also 8-0. You talk about legacies, you talk about things like that, and this game has it. Cassville, we know that they won back-to-back state championships. We know Lamar has won 7 consecutive state championships. This game has a lot on the line because it's the conference. It's an undefeated streak that's the nation's longest streak in Lamar, and it's a Cassville program that has a resurgence with some seniors.
That's right. Both programs are rich in tradition. When you look at all their state title rings, I love the matchups you get, though, because both teams, as I said, senior-led. For Cassville, they have DJ White. For Lamar, has Landon Hardman. The quarterbacks, you won't find two better dual-threat quarterbacks.
Right.
Shannon Haney for the Wildcats, Duncan Gepner for the Tigers. What I'm most looking forward to, Anthony Tolbert, running back for Cassville, Travis Bailey, the best linebacker in the area at linebacker for Lamar, leading that defense. And when you get to the numbers and the nitty-gritty, 5 points per game is what separates the Lamar offense, that they have the advantage over Cassville's offense. Defensively, Lamar's only allowing about 9 points per game. Cassville a little over 10. Just these teams are so evenly matched, and they have the athletes from the inside to the out. Both have huge offensive lines. This will be the biggest O-line Cassville will face. We saw how they handled McDonald County. You hope that'll prepare them for, the three-headed monster that's up front for Lamar, led by Caleb Gouge, those 300-pound corn-fed boys.
Right.
So we'll see how that prepares it, but it's just top to bottom. Both teams being 8-0. This is for the top seed. This is going to win the Big 8 West. Will win the Big 8 outright, most likely as well. So much goes on the line.
Absolutely. And, George, I'm going to put you on a spot. I haven't done this in a while to you, but I'm going to put you on a spot. I'm going to put you in both teams' shoes. If you were Lamar, what do you think is your key to victory?
Do what Lamar has always done, because who are we to say, and who are they to change? What has gotten them to this point? And that's been the run game. But what has helped them get throughout this season is also their throwing game. If they come out, establish the line of scrimmage, push the ball downfield, like I said, what impressed me against Nevada, what's impressed me every time I've seen them, every game they play this week, the ball is always moving downfield. They never have negative plays. They never get too fancy. But now with Duncan Gepner, his confidence in his throws, that opens up the playbook. It takes that 8-man, maybe 9-man box out of the frame. Less room for the spinning quarterback, less defenders for them to figure out. Now they got to get back, keep them honest. That's a part Lamar has to get with them. For Cassville, it's the same thing. Feed your horses. They average 300 yards a game on the ground, 100 yards through the air. That's the same thing. Give the ball to Anthony Tolbert. Get the ball outside to your guys like DJ White. To me, it comes down to defense. I'll always take the superior defense. These two teams are so evenly matched. That's what gets me with this one.
That's exciting. It's going to be an exciting matchup. I'm excited to get down to Cassville again. I was there earlier this year for the McDonald County Cassville game, and it was a great atmosphere, and I can only imagine what we're going to see with both those fan bases, both Lamar and Cassville down there. Now let's move on here into our predictions. As you know, we won't make our Game of the Week prediction until Friday. Both George and I will. Right now, current record-wise, Andy and I are both tied still at that top spot, so this could be a make-or-break week for us depending on what we go with. So let's start off here. Carl Junction, they're 4-4. They're at Joplin, who's 6-2. I'm going to start off with my prediction here. I'm taking Joplin. I know Carl Junction had a great week when it came to defense and turnovers, but Joplin's one of those teams where I just don't see them being able to force those same amount of turnovers. I know Carthage was able to kind of do that to Blake Tash. That was like the first game where we saw, oh, Blake Tash might not be the superhero style that we thought coming into the game, or that he would have to throw his first interception of the season. It was against Carthage as well. Or it could have been against Webb City. It was Webb City. But then he's followed that up against Carthage doing the same thing. So we saw that. But I don't know if Carl Junction's defense will be able to step up and take away from Joplin with the playmakers that Joplin offers.
That's my thing. Joplin has more horses, better horses in the stable. Normally I go with the better defense. Neither defense of these two has impressed me. Yes, Carl, they have those amount of turnovers, 6+ in 2 of their last 3 wins. But when it comes to the competition you look at, that's what I expect. I'll go with the superior offense in this one. And like I said earlier, if Joplin keeps it balanced, give the ball to your running game, put the ball in Isaiah Davis's, Riley Glades, Zach Westmoreland's hands, don't throw the ball more than you need to, then they'll be fine.
We'll move on now. Seneca 3-5 at McDonald County 3-5. McDonald County starting this one off. They get the home field advantage, but I don't see Ryan McFarland's group giving up and losing this game. I am taking Seneca in this one. I have a lot of faith in Coach McFarland. I have a lot of faith in what Trey Wilson did this past week. McDonald County, the lost Monette, really changed my mind because Seneca, we know, beat Monette. So I think if I'm going with this, I'm going to go with Seneca.
I like that head-to-head approach, but I'm going to go once again. Let me look at the offensive side instead of the defensive side of the ball. For McDonald County, coming off just mustering 12 points, 13 points a week before. For Seneca, 49 points, 55 points the last 2 weeks they've scored. Give me the better offense still.
All right, and we'll both take Seneca on that one. Monette, they'll get a chance. They'll be on the road to, as we said, trying not to play for the buzzsaw in Webb City. Monette 3-5. They're at Nevada 1-7. Nevada coming off that loss in the Silver Tiger game. I don't think Nevada is going to be able to beat Monette as well. I think Monette's going to be riding into the playoffs, and the district's really fired up because of this past win against McDonald County, which I think a lot of people, including us, didn't think they would do. And now they get a chance here. You
mentioned it, that Monette's 3-5 right now. Well, those 3 wins have come over the course of their 4 games. Give me the team that's rolling. I take Monette.
All right, Galena at Parsons is a big one. Galena 7-0, Parsons 6-1. Parsons only lost coming to Frontenac. When Galena played Frontenac, they didn't allow Frontenac on the board. It was a 47-0 game. Now Parsons had a chance to win that game. There was a penalty at the end, took all that out. I'm still going to go with Galena and Bo Sarwinski's group. I just think that they're the more well-oiled machine, and they have the more, just more confidence and more ability to just stay consistent.
I'm excited for the athletes in this game. If you want any better showing in Southeast Kansas football, then make it to Galena versus Parsons. Because on the Parsons side, Daquan Johnson, Derek Williams. On Galena's side, Cooper Lawson, Nick Sarwinski, Blake, J.C. Shelton as well. They keep it going, but to me, Galena has a superior offensive line, superior defensive line. That's why I'll take the Bulldogs in this.
Yeah, Galena, definitely a strong offensive unit, and we know that. All right, so now we'll go back and we'll look at what Andy has to say, and we know that our sports swami, Andy Searcy, he's tied with me right now. But this could be the make or break week. As I mentioned, I already know his picks. So I know, and I did not mess his picks up here. So let's go ahead. Let's go turn to Andy here real quick.
Now you guys know where we've been hiding.
Yeah, we know where Andy's been at this whole time. So here he is. Andy's picks for this week. He's taken Lamar in our game of the week. He's got Joplin over Carl Junction. He's taking McDonald County over Seneca. He's got Monette winning as well, and he's taking Galena. So there was one off game between the two of us here, and that was the Seneca game against McDonald County. So we will see.
He's a believer in the Mustangs. He's a believer in Coach Hoover.
He is. He's a believer in that, and I think he might not have known that Monette beat him this past week, so we don't know. That could have been. I didn't really inform him. I'm going to give you that much. So
I'll take the edge we can get on that.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody has to dethrone Andy here in the regular season, and this is the chance because this is our last week of predictions in the regular season. Somebody has to do it. All right. Well, as you guys know, we always tell you guys to tune in on Thursday nights, get a chance to see what the weather forecast would be for Friday. Tune in at 6 o'clock as well on Friday to see the updated and the most up-to-date forecast for your games. Ray Foreman brings you guys that as well, so you guys can always know what you guys might need to bring. Like last week, George didn't have a jacket, and he always says he likes to gamble.
Shout out Coach Roy of Webb City for lending me his rain jacket.
Absolutely, yeah. So, always good people out there here in the 4 states trying to make sure that you didn't get wet and get sick because I need you here.
He has my back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he knew I needed the hood to protect the hair too. Most important part.
Yeah, we don't always get time to get back and adjust our hair on Friday nights. So, yeah, but of course, make sure you guys tune in to see what you guys might need when you go out on Friday nights, on game nights, and things like that. And of course, also this week, a special week because Oklahoma will be playing a lot of their games on Thursday night. So we have a lot of games going on in Oklahoma on Thursday night. We'll try and keep you guys updated between Thursday and Friday. But this is week 9. We're here. We're at the final week of the regular season. After this, it just gets even more crazy and more exciting for us. George, any last thoughts on this upcoming week? Anything you want to say?
I want to give a shout out to Parsons because last year they finished 1-8. No one expected them from this, especially Kurt Freese, his first year as head coach at Parsons. He was in an administrative role somewhere in the school system. He had to brush the dust off and get back into coaching. So shout out to the leaps they've made. They're already in the district, so they've already won much more than we ever expected. But once again, I'm excited for the Galena-Parsons game.
Absolutely, George. And of course, you did catch Beyond the Sidelines with George and myself, and you only catch that on 4 States homepage. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We hope that you join us next week.
This is Beyond the Sidelines with Ethan Schmidt and George Belecci, only on 4stateshomepage.com.